All right, so before we start talking about something called factoring, I want to mention a pretty well-known acronym in algebra. You may have seen it before, but if not, we'll talk about what it means, and that is FOIL. So what does FOIL mean? It's an acronym. It's kind of like PEMDAS to help people remember order of operations. FOIL means first, outside, inside, last, and it's basically a kind of fancy way of doing the distributive property. So if you remember, the distributive property is something like this. Suppose you have a 3 in front of a parentheses. That just means you take the 3 and you multiply by each thing inside. So you get 3x plus 6. So let me show you how this works. First of all with a number, and then we'll try it with variables. So suppose I asked you what is 12 times 12, and hopefully you could tell me that equals 144. Now you could write 12, it would be a little bit strange to write it this way, but you could write 12 like this. You could write 12 as 10 plus 2, and you could write 12 times 12 as 10 plus 2 times 10 plus 2. Again, a little bit strange to write it that way, but it would work. Okay, let me show you how you can use FOIL now on this. So the first terms in each parentheses, well, 10 is the first one in that front parentheses, and 10 is also the first in that other parentheses. So we would multiply those 10 times 10, and that equals 100. Okay, then let's keep going. So the outside terms, O stands for outside, the outside terms, if you look at this first parentheses, the 10 is on the outside compared to the 2. 2 is like on the inside, it's kind of in the inner part of this. The 10 is out here, it's on the outside. And over here, the 2 is on the outside of that parentheses. So this one is going to be, outside terms is 10 plus 2, or I'm sorry, 10 times 2, and that would be 20. Okay, the inside terms, 2 is on the inside of this parentheses, and 10 is on the inside of that parentheses. So 2 times 10, once again, that equals 20. And then finally, the last terms in each parentheses, 2 is the last term, it's coming second in this parentheses, and 2 is coming second or last in that parentheses, so 2 times 2, that equals 4. And now that we have these, we can just add these together. 100 plus 20 plus 20 plus 4, that equals 144. That's the same answer as if you had done 10 times 10 plus 10 times 2 plus 2 times 10 plus 2 times 2. It's just maybe not a faster way, but an easier way to remember. So let's try the exact same thing now, but this time with x's and with variables. So in the other case with p's. All right, so we'll do the same thing, and I encourage you to see if you can pause the video and try to set this up exactly like we did with numbers. So how would we multiply these? So the first terms here will be x times x, and that's equal to x squared. The second terms right here, or sorry, the outside terms is x times 3, and that will be 3x. The inside terms is 2 times x, and that will be 2x. And then finally the last terms, 2 times 3, and that's going to be 6. And then our final answer here is just to combine the like terms. So x squared plus 3x plus 2x would be 5x, and then we have that plus 6, and there is our simplified multiplied answer. Alright, number 2 is pretty much the same. There's a couple more negatives to keep track of here, but otherwise the same. We're using p instead of x. So our first terms here, I'm just going to color code this here. So the first term is negative p times negative p, and that's going to be p squared. Okay, then we have our, use green for the outside terms, our outside terms negative p times negative 1, and a negative times a negative will be a positive 1p. Our inside terms will be 3 times negative p, which is negative 3p. You could write that as plus negative 3p or minus 3p, either one works. And then finally our last terms will be 3 times negative 1, which is negative 3. So our final answer here is going to be p squared plus p minus 3p would be minus 2p, and then minus 3. So that's how we use FOIL, and that's important to know when we start to talk in the next videos about factoring. First, outside, inside, last is what FOIL means.